Good morning. Welcome back to Use Machinery Challenge. I'm Panhandle Caprock in Farming Simulator 25. And this is the final episode to recap. So let's go ahead and check my used sale. Might as well one last time. That's a planter. Okay. So overall, I kind of enjoyed this one. That's the reason why it ended up being a daily series instead of a weekly series. I would say it was pretty darn successful, ending up with $1.4 million in the bank. All the cash is gone. All the debt is gone. I managed to clear the debt. That was a great moment in this thing. I was not expecting to be so heavily focused on forestry, but that was the cards that the random generator dealt me, so yes, this became a forestry playthrough mostly, with a little bit of farming on the side. I would say overall the cattle that were here and the pigs were kind of just a distraction. They really played no significant role other than me discovering that TMR was a great moneymaker. So let's start going through here. I'll start with the map itself. The map itself is pretty good. It has some glaring obvious problems though, such as when you start as a in modes other than new farming mode, you still have a whole bunch of machinery, and quite a bit of that machinery is actually locked inside of sheds that you can't access. So that's almost like a double sin. Not only do you have machinery that you have to get rid of, but it's stuck inside sheds, so you can't, remove it. You have to just sell it from the menu. Let's look around here. This storage silo, I've used this several times, and it's been patched up, and I think at this point it's overtuned. It's too strong. It's too cheap, storage is too big, and it spreads everything out automatically. The stave silo, it's kind of borderline. I mean, they're both part of the same pack. I think it does too much. If this was indeed just a fermenting silo, that it would be great. But the fact that it's a fermenting silo, a TMR mixer, and a pig food production is, yeah, that's too much. It overdoes it. This one here is a modded sawmill. This is from the small productions with sheds optional. So it has no shed around it, so it's quite a bit cheaper. And production rate, it's comparable to the medium-sized sawmill. I have no complaints about it. This is kind of what let me get through the game. These little storage sheds are great. They hold 25 pieces or 50 pieces each, so 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 16, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Yeah, okay. I can see it holding 30 pallets. 50 pallets. So yeah, I like these two sheds. They're great. I really don't like how hard it is to the stuff to sit right if you're not on a perfectly level area. These lights are great. Half pipe trailer. This thing was, it did a good job. It has a good cargo, and it paired nicely with my JCB dumper. stock standard trailer, did a good job. The Singer here was actually a little bit too big, but it was what I could get at the time, and it did its job. Paper production, pretty good. Nothing amazing about it. I think this is actually the standard one from the base game. The map itself, beyond just the problems with the machinery doesn't disappear, has a very limited selection of trees. Most of the map owes only Manchurian red pine and spruce. And you can see they tend to be in straight rows. And then around some of the productions and stuff, you see a little bit of American elm. But if this is the Panhandle of Texas, this is a temperate forest area. You know, this isn't like the central Texas where it's, you know, high desert. This is a temperate forest. You know, there should be a huge diversity of trees. This shed here, perfectly fine. Great shed. Tractor. I was surprised and glad that it popped up in sale. It was kind of late in the series, but I still had to snag it since I had the money. And, you know, it did its job. It did good service. You know, it's always been a great tractor of horsepower for the money. It just lacks the fact that it has no front three-point or front loader attachment. The reason why I call it pet tractor is Oliver is my complete favorite Ultra brand of tractor. Of course, Oliver died right about the time I was born, so. But Oliver was folded into white, and for most of the remaining run of white, white tractors were rebranded Olivers. Although, towards this point here, they started to get some influence from Caterpillar. Minneapolis Moline had pretty much been squeezed out at this point. This here is a modded tractor. Let me pull it up here. New Holland. Right here. So, this tractor, like I said, it's a mod. It seems like a little bit lacking in detail. And also, the brakes on it are really, really bad. It takes forever for this thing to stop. On top of that, it has too many control groups. I can't tell you how many times I was trying to raise or lower my attachment, and then I was opening and closing the doors or moving the mirrors around instead. So that's one thing I would say about this. Is that it needs to have stronger brakes, and it needs to only have two control groups. In addition to that, for some reason, the front three-point moved with the tires. That's something I've never encountered before, and it was both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it helped me, you know, to move the WIFO around just a little bit that I needed. Other times it caused the WIFO to move when I didn't want it to. The Versatile. This was kind of my workhorse. This entire series. Nothing bad to say about it. A perfectly adequate tractor. Did everything I could ever want for it to do. With that said, however, it was simultaneously not quite big enough and sometimes a little bit too big. So I was stuck with this as my only tractor for a very long time, and I managed to get everything I needed it done. Of course, the WIFO forklift attachment. I love these things. They make bale handling, pallet handling so much easier. outside of, having an actual forklift. I think it even works even better because you have the forklift lifting, but you have tractor steering. The rice down here, it never came to fruition. I grew some long grain rice in it, but yeah. Luckily, I still have plenty of trees left here if I was to continue this campaign because uh, I would need more trees, but fortunately I got a lot down here. Plus I have some oak over there that are still growing. I really like this house. I'm not actually a huge fan of the log cabin style, but I thought that since this was turning into a forestry gameplay, doing a log cabin is fitting. Of course, it would be great if during cold months, you had a fire in your fireplaces. And I think this made for a pretty nice location to put it. I got myself a little bit of scenery to look at. I added some extra trees like this catapult tree. I just added this from the menu to diversify the trees around my log cabin. This shed, I didn't realize it was constructible, and on top of that, it was a vast disappointment since most of my equipment just can't fit in there. Oh, that's another thing about this map. The fact that it doesn't have a warehouse really caused problem with doing the construction. I did not plan on building a concrete factory, but I ended up doing it. Of course, my 2 grass fields, very good. No complaints there. They did it, everything I wanted to. Especially when you consider this was, kind of like scrub brush when I first started, and this is what it looks like now. A very respectable homestead. So we move on down here. The fact that this thing was originally surrounded by a huge fence was so annoying. It made accessing it difficult. So when I finally bought it, yeah, I got rid of that fence and it made everything much better. As far as the layout, I like the layout, especially the fact that it provided a nice machinery shed that I needed. But what I did not appreciate is the fact that this thing is way overly productive. I mean, if I let it go, this thing was putting out like 250,000 a day in wood. It just was destroying any sort of challenge. The Class Dominator Ford. I've used this before. Previously, when I used it, I didn't notice that it was slightly overtuned, so I think maybe it was sped up a little bit with a patch since I first used it. But yeah, it's a little bit too fast now, both on ground speed, harvesting speed, and the fact that it practically instantly empties the grain tank, and the grain tank on it I also think is too large. So this is a bit of a being led down a false path. The Ponzi here was another workhorse. When I first got it, it was able to do the work, and I never really did much of the wood hauling contracts. I did a couple of them, but I really still struggle using the crane. But has a winch, it did wonderful work that way, and especially once I upgraded the engine. Of course, this winch right here was what I started with, and it was adequate to the job. It did everything I needed. It did what I needed to do, and it allowed me to get through till I had bigger, better equipment. This thing was kind of interesting too. A self-propelled little mower. It's very realistic. I actually looked these up. These are real things. So I thought it did a good job and provided me with a service that I needed when I needed it at a reasonable price. The New Holland TX62, excellent, excellent, excellent. Nothing bad to say about this. It was perhaps a tad too small for what we need, but you know, that's not a problem with the mod itself. That's just, you know, it's made for a certain size and I needed a little bit bigger. I got a lot of work out of this cultivator. It's basically the biggest cultivator that I could get that my tractor could handle outside of maybe Flexi Thing. Which when Flexi Thing was available, I didn't have the money to buy it. No, so I could really have used a bigger cultivator in the series, but this one did excellent job. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. I just wasn't given the bigger cultivator I really needed. This fertilizer spreader, excellent, great. I highly recommend it. It did everything I would ever need of a fertilizer spreader. Imagine if I got very, very, very big. In fact, it only holds 2,000 liters, might start to become a problem. The lizard mower here. This is a front mower. It's supposed to go with a bat wing on the back. I never managed to get the bat wing. I think this is slightly overtuned. It's just a little bit better than all the other type front mowers that you can get. So I think it's another case of the mod maker was just tempted. Well, I'll just do it a little bit more. It'll be a little bit better, just a little bit better. This thing here, this rear mower, perfectly good. It didn't pair very well with that since the Samaz, yeah, didn't swath, and the front mower did, so it created kind of a weird effect. The Kuhn subsoiler did excellent work. I needed to have plow since I had plowing on for this, and this did the job. It's too bad that, however, that subsoilers don't count as plowing for plowing contracts. This mulcher, kind of a waste. I used it once, didn't really see much of a benefit from it. I think I would have seen more benefit of this if I had ever came into possession of a direct drill seeder or grain drill so I could skip cultivating. Nordston seeder, excellent. It wasn't quite big enough for what I needed, but it is excellent for what it is. This planter, no problems with it. It did its job. I actually used it very little just because I end up not planting the type of crops it does very much. This baler was amazing. The largest square bales, and it is what let me collect my straw, collect my grass. So yes, this was a great baler. Highly recommend it. And should keep going. This thing here, this John Deere spray rig, this is actually one thing I can say definitely was too big. I made it work, but it was definitely too big for my operation. And, but other than that, it did an excellent job. So, no qualms here, even though it is a John Deere. My Izeki rice planter. I never got the rest of the stuff to go with it, so this was kind of a waste, which was a shame. But yeah, so I never got the rice harvester, so there was no point in me planting rice that I couldn't harvest. This little shed was on. Oh, that was the one problem I had with the with this TX62 New Holland combine is I couldn't refuel it unless I put diesel into my multi-fruit silo, which I wasn't going to do. This didn't work. It's kind of amusing. I've seen stuff like this actually done in real life, so I'm not too terribly upset about it being there. But yeah, so that was kind of a waste. But power washer. I think adding this workshop with the work point and the power washer, helped centered my, kind of centered the farm, gave me an in the day, and so let me take better care of my equipment and get everything put more away. It kept help me focus and keep everything more organized. Alright, this tractor here was a disappointment. Basically, everything I tried to get it to do, it just wasn't up to doing. Which is kind of surprised because I've previously used another Ford tractor from this very same pack, and it was an MVP of that. But here, this tractor was just too small. I could never get out of it what I needed to. I managed to get a little bit of work out of it here and there, but yeah, it was never what I needed. Now, this JCB dumper was great. I upgraded from the small walk behind to this, and this was perfect size for this farm, perfect mobility, paired so well with that half-pipe trailer. Let's jump in pet tractor here. This pigsty was pretty good, did everything I needed to do. I don't know why, for some reason, it decided to stop using the first manure heap I put up, so I had to demolish that manure heap and put up a second manure heap, but I have had no problems with it since. This tanker trailer has done me great service, excellent. It's good capacity, good price, and it's not overly fast loading or unloading. Root crop greenhouse, excellent. Very good. It has good production, but has a lot of inputs, so I think this is a good balanced greenhouse. This one, however, is not. Even with all of its outputs, this one is just too productive, especially considering it's not a split greenhouse, so it can make everything at full speed. So I won't be using this greenhouse again. Water distributor, I love this thing. It is such a great mod. Basically, it's plumbing for the farm. It lets me fill up this tank, and then it, runs water everywhere else I need to go. Alright, the sugar factory. This thing added a decent amount of income to my farm. I did it because I just needed a way to use up all the extra sugar beet. I was kind of chasing a rabbit down its hole here, getting sugar beet to make pig food, because pigs really ended up being an inconsequential part of the game. This is a small base game carpentry. It is too slow. It's practically useless. And here we have custom concrete factory. This thing is also way too productive. It produced way more than the base game concrete factory, so yeah. I would not recommend this. Standard. I really don't like this debris crusher thing, but it's mandatory if you're going to have a concrete plant because there's no other way to get rocks in such quantity. Although I was hoping that the quarry that was added with the Highlands expansion would make rock stone so that you could do it that way, but it don't. I never use this thing. In theory, if I didn't have the restrictions, I could probably just literally set up a conveyor from that debris crusher to this debris crusher and print infinite money. So yeah, that was a bit of a problem. See, I think my farm is in a great location for the most part. This map does have a pretty good diversity of field sizes. These small ones here in the center would have been perfect for me, but I never actually bought them up because I end up being more forestry-based, agriculture-based. That gas station isn't quite in the right place. It really should be up on the intersection. Traffic on this map is a huge problem. I don't think I've had as many problems with traffic on other maps as I've had here. Never really interacted with the train system. This here was a nice touch, having this built up housing area right here, because every map needs a place for the NPCs to live, and it was provided nicely here. So, although I think I would like some more town infrastructure. So I was just talking about crazy traffic. And this is another carpentry. This is another custom carpentry to this map, and once again it's way too productive. This thing here will suck up material just about as fast as I can throw it in it, and furniture is hugely profitable. So this really should only be making like 2 pallets a day, and I was getting a lot more than that. I think I was getting 6 to 8 pallets a day out of it if I didn't temper myself. So that's it. This series is over. My next series will be on the homestead map. Actually, my next series is going to be some RPG content. My next farming simulator series will be on the homestead map. And with that, this playthrough is done. Thank you very much for watching.